Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2 to reboot your marriage retreat. How's everybody doing? Who's ready to turn some lights on? Who's ready to send some love into the world? Anyway, thank you for coming back today. Day 2. Congratulations. Those of you that have made it here, awesome job. Today we're going to be talking about toxic habits that destroy your relationship. Now, if you get this right, you can't go wrong. And if you get this wrong, you can't go right. So this is going to be really important today. And this is what makes life easy. Our habits, we operate upon habits, right? 95% of our life is on autopilot, and that autopilot is habits. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. The example is driving a car. We're literally unconscious. We're literally asleep while we're driving cars. We're doing it on habits. And every aspect of our life is governed by habits, right? So today, we're going to learn what those negative habits are that are utterly destroying your relationship right now. And we're going to learn what the good habits are that if you can replace them, it's going to put your success on autopilot. It's going to make your life easy, because a lot of us right now, I call it the stupid button, right? We just keep hitting that stupid button and we don't know why things are going wrong. We keep doing things that we know we shouldn't do. We keep doing things that we don't want to do. We keep creating situations that we don't want, and we just don't know why. I call it the stupid button, right? Why do we keep hitting that stupid button? Well, the answer to that question is habits. It's habits that's guiding your behavior. And if you've got bad habits that you're not conscious of, you're going to be engaged in bad behavior that's going to produce bad results. And if you've got good habits, you're going to produce good results. And when we can get those good habits on autopilot, then when we're operating on those habits, then success is on autopilot. So some people, they've got the attitude of, I can't win for losing, right? They say, I just can't win for losing, Cody. It's like, well, that's because you've got the habits of losing. Let's flip that around. By the end of the day, I want you to be at a place to where you can at least start to build a life where you can't lose for winning, because that is absolutely very possible. And I want that for you. So people have a hard time believing that sometimes, but let me ask you this question. Are there a set of behaviors, are there a set of habits that we can engage in that will absolutely guarantee wrecking our lives? Are there habits we can engage in that we know for a fact will destroy our health? Absolutely. Are there habits we can engage in that will absolutely destroy our finances? Are there habits we can destroy in that will absolutely destroy friendships, relationships? Are there habits we can engage in that will destroy our jobs and all of that kind of stuff? Of course there are. We know that. Nobody disputes that, right? And anybody engaged in those habits, you can see that they're on a slippery slide and you know where they're going. They're going down and they're going there fast and they're going to stay there probably. But the same is true on the other side, and people don't grasp that quite so easily when I say, hey, there's a system of habits that you can engage in. There's a system of behavior that you can ingrain into you so deeply that it's on autopilot that you can't lose for winning. Everything you do is going to turn to gold. I'm sure we've heard that too, right? I've got an uncle that my family say that about. Everything he touches turns to gold. It's because he's got success habits in those areas of his life. There are also people we know that I'm sure we say everything they touch turns to poop, right? Everything they touch turns to poop. Habits that's driving that, and it's habits that's causing that. And we're going to get to the root cause of that today. And we're going to uncover the devastating habits that if they're present in your relationship will suffer 100%. Your relationship will struggle. And if it doesn't end in divorce, it's still going to end badly, right? Just because it doesn't end in, let me turn that down for a second. Just because it doesn't end in divorce doesn't mean it's happy. When they say the divorce rate is 50%, well, let's turn that around. What is the happy marriage rate? How many successful marriages are there? It's probably like 5%, right? 10% maybe max. So just because you're not in the 50% that divorces doesn't mean it's a happy situation. So we want to get you happy. We want to get you there on autopilot. So there's some warnings I've got to give you right before we get into this, because it's very easy to turn this around and use what I'm about to share with you right now to actually do more damage in your relationship. So I'm going to cover 4 habits here. But there's actually a lot of habits. 4 habits. These are like, I call them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. If these are present in your relationship, if any of them are present, you got problems. And to be honest with you, usually 3 or 4 are present in relationships. When I start working with couples and we're talking one-to-one, it's like playing bingo, right? It's like that habit's there, that habit's there, that habit's there. They're all there. So these are the ones that are absolutely going to crush your marriage in a bad way. But here's what I do not want to happen today with this information is to take this information and start going, yep, I told you that's present in my partner and that's causing the problem. Yep, that habit is present in my partner and that is causing a problem. Yep, that habit's there. Now I know why my partner is causing all these problems. Now I know why I'm vindicated and I have no responsibility in this relationship. So one of the habits that we're actually not going to cover, I guess we are going to cover it because I'm going to talk about it very quickly right now, is the habit of case building. So what we want to avoid here at all costs is case building. We don't want to use these habits to build a case against our partner. So I'm going to talk about the habit of escalation, for example. We don't want to go, okay, well, yeah, my partner absolutely escalates the situation, therefore my partner's to blame. Or my partner absolutely gets engaged in this behavior all the time, therefore they are to blame. That is not what this is about. And ideally, through this entire week of all these sessions this week, I don't even want you to think about your partner and how your partner's doing this stuff. This is about you and about you becoming the person that you need to be to have a bigger, better marriage, right? This is about you. A lot of people fail in marriage. A lot of marriages fail because they come to it with the wrong idea. They come to it with the wrong concept of what it is. And they come to it with the idea that a marriage is somewhere you go to get. Marriage is somewhere you go to get. And effectively what that is, it's like two starving people coming together saying, hey, we're starving, let's get together and share our food. Well, hey folks, you're both starving. Getting together to share the little food you have is not going to end well, right? Both parties are coming together thinking they're going to benefit from this equation. It's like, hey, if we get together and share our food, I'm not going to be quite as hungry. But the reality is, when you get in that situation, when you get into the marriage, the other person starts to eat what little food you've got, and it just is not what you had in mind, right? It just pisses you off. Whereas if we approach it from the other perspective of marriage is somewhere that you go to give, then it's a different scenario, right? Things are really different at that point. So if you've got a starving person and you've got a full person and they come together, it's like you're much more likely to have success because the person that's full, which hopefully is going to be you, that's the goal here, right? It's not to take what little food your partner has got and make yourself feel good by eating their food. It's to go back into the relationship and have an abundance to where you are completely full. Now you can give to your partner, so you no longer need to take out of the relationship. Because let me tell you something, a starving man or a starving woman will eat from a trash can. Someone who's full will turn down steak. And that's what I want from you. That's what I want for you by the end of this week. I want you to be full so you will turn down steak. Right now, a lot of us are in relationships. I was in a relationship for a long time where we're literally starving to death and we're willing to eat out of the trash can. We're willing to lower our standards because we're starving. We're willing to put up with behavior that we ordinarily wouldn't put up with because we're starving, and we're willing to do things that we ordinarily would not do simply because we're starving. A starving person will eat out of a trash can, and that's me, and that's you, and that's everybody. I don't want that for you. The way to not be compromised in a relationship, the way to be able to maintain yourself, to maintain your integrity, to maintain your identity, which is critical going into a marriage, which is critical going into a relationship. If you can't maintain your identity and you start losing yourself, how are you going to be happy? How are you going to be satisfied? It doesn't matter what your partner is given at that point. It doesn't matter what is going on in the relationship. If you're losing your identity, if you're losing yourself because you're starving, then you're not going to be happy, and maybe you'll stay married. There's a lot of people watching this that are married, and they're going to stay married. Divorce is not on the table for them, right? But doesn't mean you're happy. That's not what I want for you. I want you to be full. I want you to be abundant so you can go into the relationship. You can maintain high standards because you're full. You can turn down steak. You can raise the bar. You can raise the standard. And what I'm saying here is I don't want you going into your relationship tomorrow or the next day and say, my partner does this, they have this habit, my partner does that. We're going to rise above that. We're going to set the bar higher. And all we're interested in is trying to find and identify. And it shouldn't be that difficult, right? When we go through these habits, it's not going to be difficult to identify these. I want you to identify them in yourself. And I want you to start working on yourself. Because it's like Jesus said, and I see this all the time, literally every couple I work with in a counseling, therapy type environment, coaching environment, It's Jesus said, why do you say to your brother, let me take the splinter out of your eye when there's a beam in your own eye? And that is so very true. Until you can get to the point to where you can say the splinter is out of my eye, let's not even worry about your partner right now. Until you're at a point to where you're completely healthy, to where you're full, to where you're abundant in yourself, to where you're happy in yourself, and you can go back into the relationship with happiness, abundance, and fullness, because you understand that a relationship is where you go to give, and you've got your abundance from outside of that relationship. I'm not saying abundance in terms of like sexual activity or that kind of stuff, right? I'm talking about your identity, your happiness. And that's what we're going to talk about on day 4. That's why I have a session on stress, anxiety, depression, and unhappiness, because that is ultimately what this is about, right? If you're in a marriage that's getting crushed right now, if you're getting crushed in your marriage, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to be fulfilled, you're not going to be abundant, and you're going to be in a very, very poor state to make any changes, right? The level of success that we're going to have in the relationship is very much going to be dependent on the state that we're in. And if we're in a state of depression, if we're in a state of anxiety, if we're in a state of stressed out all the time, then what are we going to be able to give to that relationship? When we go back into the relationship from a place of abundance, and I'm coming into this relationship now to give, what are you going to have to give if you're depressed? What are you going to give if you're not happy? And I know I was so depressed that I couldn't get out of bed at one point. There was 3 days, 4 days at one point, I remember, where finally it cracked for me. I just said enough is enough. I'd been in bed for 3 or 4 days. I really couldn't get up. I was so depressed. I was so full of anxiety. When I did get up, I'd literally throw up. That's how bad it was. Every day I would just get up, and the first thing I'd do in the morning was throw up, because that's how much anxiety I had. I had depression that wouldn't even allow me really to get out of bed. I had to just muscle myself to get out of bed. How can I impact the world if I'm in that condition? How can I impact my marriage if I'm in that condition? How can I impact my children? How can I impact my work colleagues? How can I influence my children? Am I an example to my children at that point, or am I a warning to my children at that point? I do not want my children seeing me depressed, anxious, stressed out, because they're copying me. They're modeling me. I was at the dinner table the other day, and my son EJ, who's 6 years old, he just sat there and he just goes, oh, like that. And he's 6, he should be full of energy. And it's not that he was tired. It was that he was modeling me. He was seeing me, excuse me. He was seeing me come into the dinner table at the end of the day, worn out and exhausted, and allowing my family to see that exhaustion and setting an example for my children that they were starting to copy. So now he's starting to ingrain that in an early age, right? He's starting to think, okay, well, at the dinner table, we're exhausted. At the end of the day, we're exhausted. It's not true. That's just me setting a poor example. I've got to work on that. And that is a good example, right, of where I've got to come into the relationship to give. I don't come to that dinner table to get the energy from my children. I have to come to that dinner table to give to that table, to give energy, to give an example. And that's on me to get that right. That's on me. And that's what I want you to take out of this as well. So one of the habits that we're really not going to talk about, we kind of are. The first one is case building, right? Let's not use this to build cases. We don't want to use this information to build a case against our partner to say, there you go, see, I'm right and you're wrong. Because guess what? Whatever the mind seeks, the mind finds. Whatever the mind looks for, it finds. And whether, as Henry Ford said, right, whether you think you're right or whether you think you're wrong, you're right. And that's the truth. The mind will find whatever it's looking for. So if you're looking to build a case against your partner, you will find that case against your partner. We're going to see that's definitely going to fall into the habits here. So we really want to get out of that habit of case building. We're not here to build a case. We're here to get better. We're here to get bigger. We're here to get stronger. We're here to get full. We're here to get abundant. And praise God, we're here to change the world. We can do this, and it starts with you. The change starts with you. So let me talk a little bit about what coaching is, right? And why this is important. So what we're doing here is simple. When these habits are simple, and a lot of you listening to this right now are going to go, yep, I get it, makes sense, boom, I've got it, that's simple. But here's what I don't want for you. You're right, it is simple, but here's what I don't want for you. I don't want you to confuse simple with easy. Simple is not easy. Simple means it's not complicated. Simple means it's not hard to do. Simple means a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old could do it. That's what simple means. It doesn't mean that it's easy. If it was easy, you'd already be doing it, because you're going to know a lot of these habits and you're going to recognize them when you see them, yet you've still done them, right? So here's what a coach is, and here's my job working with you. Excuse me, got a little bug in my throat. Coaching is working with you until the habit becomes ingrained. Now, let me give you an example. Who here has got children? Put in the chat yes if you've got children. Let me know how many children you've got. Don't say yes, just put a number in the chat so I can, when I'm going through the comments here, I can see how many children you've got, just out of curiosity. So I've got 3 children. It's my middle son's birthday today. Actually, he's 5 years old today. So as soon as I get done here, he's at the park right now. I'm going to go join him and have some birthday cake with him. But every single night, I have a fight with my boys. Every single night. I got 3 boys. I got a 6-year-old, I got a 5-year-old who turned 5 today, and I've got a 2-year-old. Every single night, I fight with them, and my wife fights with them over them getting in the shower. Every single night, we have a fight with them about brushing their teeth. Thanks, guys. Got three. Awesome. We have a fight with them every night. Now, is brushing your teeth difficult? Is brushing your teeth difficult? Yes or no? No, it isn't. It's a very, very simple thing. Even the most simple of us, right? Even the slowest people on this call can come to terms with brushing our teeth. My 2-year-old can brush his teeth. But here's the thing. Here's what a coach needs to do. It's repetition, 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 repetition. It is repetition that ingrains a habit. Giving you this information today, my goal is not for you to go, I get it now. I understand why things are going wrong. My goal is for you to take the information and to apply it and make change. And the way you make that change is through repetition. Now, every night I go and have to talk to my boys, say, have you brushed your teeth? Have you brushed your teeth? Have you brushed your teeth? And as a result, I'm sure most of us, when we were kids, our parents did that, right? Well, what is the result of that? The result is that we have a lifetime of dental hygiene. I'm sure a lot of us, especially if we were boys, right? It's not so much. I don't have any girls, but I'm sure it's true. My wife tells me that it's not so with girls. Girls love getting in the shower. Boys like being dirty and stinky, and they don't like getting in the shower, right? We can all relate to that if we're boys. But making them get in the shower every night, it's not a difficult thing getting in the shower. It's not a hard thing getting in the shower. But I have to do it every night. I have to coach them. I have to coach them to brush their teeth. I have to coach them to get in the shower. But the result of this is a lifetime of hygiene. How much better do you think their life is going to be as a result of that coaching? They're going to develop the habit. Now, even as an adult, I don't particularly, if I could avoid showers, I would, but I get in the shower every night because I know I have that habit ingrained in me, and I know the results, the benefits are there, right? The results of hygiene and sickness is not going to be there and stuff like that. It's going to be good for hygiene and stuff. Same with my teeth. I don't particularly enjoy brushing my teeth every night. I don't particularly want to do it, but I can't not do it at this point. How many of you here could not brush your teeth? You absolutely physically have to do it. There's something in your mind right now that makes you brush your teeth every night. There's something in you that makes you take a shower every night, whether you want to or not. Well, that is because when you were young, somebody took the time to coach you. They took the time to coach you, and they stuck with you and stuck with you and stuck with you and stuck with you until the habit was ingrained, till the habit became a part of you. And the result of that, they gave you the gift of lifelong dental hygiene. They gave you the gift of lifelong cleanliness. That was the gift that the coach, who was your parent at that point, gave you. Coaching is not sitting here giving you intellectually stimulating information, right? It's nice when you guys get aha moments when someone goes, that makes sense, I never thought of it like that, or that's brilliant, or this is really good stuff. I like that. That makes me happy. I like to hear that. But at the end of the day, that's not why I'm here. Change doesn't come about in your marriage. Change doesn't come about in your life, in any aspect of your life, from getting new information. It doesn't. This information is not going to make one iota of difference to your life unless you apply it. My children can know, they're proficient. They know, they go top to bottom, back to front, side to side. They know how to brush their teeth. They know the routine. Brush your teeth, brush it every day. They know the songs right. They know them. They know it all. They know it all. But unless they actually get in there and brush their teeth, it does not do them an iota of good. Rubber has to hit the road. So transformation in your marriage does not come about from getting this information. It doesn't. Unfortunately, I wish it did. We'd all be in a great situation, right? We'd be thin, we'd be beautiful, we'd be healthy, we'd have awesome marriages if all it took was having access to information. The way you get transformation in your marriage is by radically seeking out and aggressively implementing new behavior. And if you're taking notes, that is going to be a great note to write down right now. Change and transformation comes about from radically seeking out and aggressively implementing. The aggressive implementation is the important part here. You have to aggressively implement the behavior. And you can get 100 things out of this retreat this week, out of these sessions. If you don't apply them, it's not going to do you any good. And that's why in our marriage recovery program, which I'll talk to you about later on in the week, if anybody's interested in that, we're not going to talk about that now. The one thing I say is every week, take one piece of information. I would rather you take just one piece of information and aggressively apply that to your life. Because taking one piece of information and aggressively applying it and continuing to apply it and continuing to apply it until it becomes a part of you, until it becomes a part of your personality, your persona, your DNA, until that is when transformation is going to take place. That is when transformation is going to take place. Getting a bunch of information and we can sit here and, pat each other on the back and say, hey, we're all doing great. Yada, yada. It's about radically seeking out and aggressively implementing new behavior. So that is why I've narrowed this down to 4 habits. There could have been a lot, right? There could have been a lot. And over time, we will cover a lot. But these are the 4, these are the most devastating ones. And also we're going to flip that around, right? Because if there are habits that absolutely will destroy a relationship, are there habits that will absolutely positively build a relationship? Absolutely, here to tell you. So we've got that covered. So let's get started here. I've got some notes here because this is quite important. I don't want to miss some stuff out here. And I get excited about this stuff. I really love this stuff and I love talking about it. And I've got so much information in my head. I have a tendency just to jump around. I don't want to miss the important information that I've got here, the stuff that's going to give you the maximum impact. Right, quick drink and we'll get going. So who's ready for the 4 habits that will destroy a relationship? Put in the chat yes if you're ready. I want to see some yeses in the chat. Are you awake? Are you paying attention? Let's have a look here. And then we will get going. Let me know that you're with me here. There we go. We got some people giving some thumbs up. Awesome. Let's get going. So the first habit is, got some more thumbs up. Love it. Love those thumbs up. Love those hearts. The comments, guys, really keep me going here because I'm just sitting here talking to a camera, right? I'm in my office / schoolroom. We homeschool our children, and this is when I get done with the sessions here. We've got this is my schoolroom. My 6-year-old made a map of Australia there, so I'm literally sat here talking to a camera. Unfortunately, you can see me, but I can't see you. So the interaction here is very, very helpful, right? When I see thumbs up, when I see likes, when I see comments, that just lets me know that you're out there. Otherwise, I'm just in a room talking to myself and my energy levels start to drop. So keep the comments coming, guys. I love them. Thank you. All right, so let's start going. Habit number 1, escalation. Who knows what escalation is? How many of us can take nothing and turn it into something? How many of us can take the smallest thing and turn it into the biggest fight? How many of us can make a fight where there is no fight? I always say about my wife in the kitchen, it's like she's masterful at making work where there is no work. She'll clean things that don't even need cleaning. She'll do stuff that doesn't even need cleaning. She's a master at making work where there is no work in the kitchen. She wants it spotless. Same is true in our relationships, right? How many of us are masters at making conflict where there is no conflict? How many are really good at taking nothing and turning it into something? Now, escalation is going to be really, really devastating. So if you remember yesterday, those of you who were here yesterday, we talked about the core principles of building a relationship, the foundations of building a relationship. Who can remember what they are? The first one was emotional safety and security. The second one was mutual admiration and respect. And the third one was shared vision and goal for the relationship. And I think we can put all of that under the category of what is the culture of your relationship. Now, I've worked with businesses as a business coach for a long time before I had the marketing skills to actually be able to become a marriage coach, because I wanted to be a marriage coach. I was really into that many years ago. I just didn't have the skills to turn it into a business. So I started to learn business skills and started working with other businesses in that process, right? And one of the ways that a business grows, any business, it's all about the culture. Before a business can grow, before it can start to build on solid ground, it's about what is the culture of that business. Does it have a culture of excellence? Does it have a culture of customer service? Does it have a culture of employee care? Does it have a culture of commitment over convenience? Does it have a culture of going the extra mile? Does it have a culture of give to get? Does it have a culture of paying it forward, right? This is the culture that is going to grow a business, and we want to have the same thing within our marriage. So when we look at mutual respect, emotional safety, all of these things, shared goals, it's like that kind of comes under these are a component part, but it kind of comes under the umbrella of what is the culture of your relationship? What is the culture? What culture are you going to build? So when we look at these habits, and the reason I put these habits on day 2, and before day 3, which is going to be dealing with difficult partners, is because I want you to see how these habits relate back to the core principles of your marriage that have to be there. Hopefully we can see after yesterday that if emotional security is not there, emotional safety is not there, you're done and dusted. Pack it up and go home, right? You're not going to have a good marriage. If shared vision is not there, it's going to be difficult. Why would you stay together when you share no vision with the person? You've got to be moving in the same direction. It's like when I first met my wife, right? I said, hey, sweetheart, here's my vision. I'm moving in this direction. You're welcome to come with me if you want to. I would love for you to have you on this journey. There's got to be that shared vision. There's got to be direction you're moving in together, and there has to be mutual respect and admiration. So how do these habits that we're going to talk about impact and destroy those things? So if we look at escalation, if every time your partner comes to you with a problem, if every time your partner wants to talk to you, it escalates into a fight. It doesn't matter what they say. They can come to you and say, could you move the car over, please? Like it's kind of tight where I am. Like the park, we've got 2 cars, and to park them next to each other it's got to be done precisely, right? We can't just randomly park. We can't park sloppily and get both cars into the garage. So if I come to my wife and say, or she comes to me and says, hey, can you move the car over, please? I could take that personally and start a fight out of that and go, what, you saying that I don't know how to park the car? You saying that I don't know how to park a car? You saying that I don't know how to drive? I've been driving for 25 years, sweetheart. I think I know a little bit about driving. I was parking cars before your butt was as bigger than a shirt button. I know a little bit about parking. Don't tell me how to park my car. So I've escalated that situation, right? I've skillfully taken nothing and turned it into something. But what has that done for the emotional security in the relationship? What has that done for her ability to come to me and talk to me about stuff? She's come to me with a legitimate question, right? Could you please move the car over? I've escalated it into a fight, and in the process of escalating that into a fight, I've utterly destroyed emotional security. If she can't even ask me to, can you move the car over just a little bit, please, so I can get my car into the garage. If she can't even ask that question, how's she going to ask the big questions? How's she going to raise the big topics with me, right? Emotional security destroyed. Emotional security done. And if that happens over and over and over and over again in the relationship, the escalation is going to utterly destroy the emotional security. And again, you're going to get a stonewalled partner. You're going to get an absent partner. You're going to get someone who leaves. And ultimately, when they do leave, they're going to say, I don't know why I'm leaving. I just can't be married anymore. I don't know. I just don't get it. And the person's going to go, well, my partner does. They just don't know why they're leaving. No, they're scared of you. They do know why they're leaving the relationship. They're scared of you because every time they actually try to talk to you about something important, you escalate the situation into a fight that has destroyed emotional security, and they just can't deal with that anymore. They would rather just walk away from the relationship and just tell you that the reason they're leaving is they don't know why they're leaving than to deal with one more fight. They're just done with it. And that is what escalation does. That is what it's attacking. So let's look at pillar number 2, mutual admiration and respect. Well, if my wife comes to me and says, hey, Cody, could you please move your car over so I can get my car in the driveway? And I go, blah, 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 blah. I've been driving a car for 25 years and tell me how to drive a car, blah, 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 blah. What is that doing for respect? How is she, it's like, is she viewing me as mature? Is she viewing me as leadership quality? Is this a man that she wants to follow to the ends of the earth and back? Or is this a man that's petty? Is this a man that has no control over his emotion? Is this a man that's acting like a 5-year-old? Is this a man that's saying, hey, follow me, I want to lead you, I want to lead you, I want to keep you safe, I want to be your provider, I want to be your knight in shining armor, but I'm a petty little boy? What is it doing for the mutual admiration and respect within the relationship, right? What is it doing to that for her? Is she going to be able to respect me in that situation? I think probably not, right? So it's not just a case of like an escalation is causing a fight. Most people just stop there. They go, we fight all the time. We at the fight, we just escalate, we escalate. Yeah, I get it, but it's like the escalation is not the problem. That's not a fight is not the problem, right? We can have a fight, and as long as it doesn't, we can disagree. As long as it doesn't impact the emotional security, the mutual respect, and the shared vision and culture, it's not a problem. Fighting is not a problem. It's when it starts to impact the core tenets of your marriage, it's problematic, right? It's problematic. So, and then the last one is shared vision, shared goal. It's like we can't even agree on how to park a car, right? We can't even agree on how to park cars in our garage, and we can't agree on how to have a conversation about that. So how are we going to that's a tiny little thing, right? It's like as a couple, we're trying to organize how to park cars and we can't do it. How are we going to organize a bigger goal? How are we going to have a mission? I mean, for example, my wife and I, our mission now is to raise healthy children. We want to raise our children to the point where, raise them healthy mentally and emotionally, physically. And we also want to impact lives. This is a ministry for me. This is a ministry for us. And it's great because we've come together. She's always wanted to do this. This is something that I love doing, and we can come together and we can have that shared vision together. But hey, guess what? It takes some skill to do that, to bring that together to where we can work together. We can raise our kids together, we can homeschool our kids together, and we can live together, and we can be married together. That takes some skill, right? If we can't even organize how to park a car, if that's beyond us, well, how's that going to impact our shared vision? How can we have a vision that's meaningful? The vision that my wife and I have right now to impact millions of lives through our marriage ministry, that's impactful. That creates meaning for her. That creates meaning for me. That creates meaning for the relationship. That creates vision for the relationship. That creates forward momentum in the relationship. It's a positive thing. And don't underestimate the value of shared vision and shared goal within your relationship. But if you're fighting all the time because you're escalating, then how can you have that? You're never going to have that. And the reason I just told you all that, because I wanted to show you the power really of that shared vision, of that shared goal, and it's being utterly destroyed for what? We talked about yesterday, and one of the homework questions was, what are you being robbed of right now? What's being robbed out of your relationship? Well, let me tell you, in my situation, if I'm constantly bickering with my wife, if I'm constantly escalating, if I constantly can't get a grip and a hold of my emotions, then I'm being robbed of that ministry. I'm being robbed of that vision together. I'm being robbed of that meaning. I'm being robbed of those experiences. I'm being robbed of all of that stuff. And I don't even know it. That is being stolen from my home right beneath my nose. Now, here's the thing with escalation, right? I want to give you some tips to get out of this. We're already halfway through the time. I'm only one tip in here. So the thing you got to understand is, this is very important. Again, if you're making notes, write this down. As emotion increases, intelligence decreases, right? You got to recognize that, and you've got to have some triggers. Set plays win games. I know that with my wife, if things start to escalate, I'm not a Buddhist monk, I'm not Zen, I still have a temper, I still have the propensity to be a little bit hot-headed sometimes. This hasn't all gone away. I've got it. I've just got mechanisms to deal with it now, right? So if something is starting to irritate me a little bit, then I recognize that if I allow my emotions to go up, then my intelligence is going to go down. How many times have you woken up the next morning and go, oh my God, what did I say? What was I thinking? Why did I say that? What was I thinking? Well, the answer to that question is you weren't thinking. Because your emotion got so high, you allowed the situation to escalate to the point where your emotional intelligence dropped so low, and you were literally a 5-year-old at that point, emotionally speaking. And I'm sure we can all relate to that, right? Because you go, why did I say that? I can't believe, what was I thinking? You weren't thinking, my friend. And that's where we just have to recognize that. And there has to be a disengagement. My wife, we've got disengagement rules, right? If things are starting to get hectic, then we have code words. We have ways to get out of the situation where it's just like, okay, let's break, let's time out. I'm getting too emotional. I recognize now my face is getting red. I'm feeling that emotion welling up in me. I'm about to crack it. Time out. Let's take a time out. Let's reconvene in an hour when we can emotionally deal with this in a sensible way, right? So you've got to have those breakers. You've got to have those emotional breakers in there. And unfortunately, we haven't really got time to go into that because I want to get into the other habits. So the second habit here is invalidation. It's invalidation. Now, this is very insidious too, because a lot of times we don't even know we're doing it. It's men tend to do it more than women, but women do it as well. So let me give you an example where this could be very devastating, be very harmful to a relationship, and we don't even know that we're doing it, right? So my wife could come home from work, say, and she's having issues with workmates at work, and say, hey, I'm just not getting along with so-and-so at work, and it's just bothering me a little bit. And I go, in my problem-solving brain as a man, don't worry about it, sweetheart. I'm sure he's just an a-hole. Thinking that I'm helping her, right? Because that's how I would deal with it, and that's how I would approach the situation myself. But what I've just done there is invalidate her feelings. She didn't ask me for a solution. She told me that she's feeling upset because somebody's treating her a certain way, right? She's feeling upset. That's her feeling. She didn't say this person's upsetting me at work. What do I do about it? She said, my feelings, this person at work is upsetting me and I'm feeling upset about it. And I've just gone to it and go, those emotions are not valid. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And she could come back and say, well, it's not that I'm so much that I'm worried about it. It's just that, I've got to work with these people and I want a nice environment. And I just go, you know what? You keep telling me you don't like your job anyway. Maybe it's time to quit. Maybe it's time to start looking for another job. And again, I've just invalidated. She's given me an emotion and I've invalidated it. And then she's come back again with a second emotion saying, actually, it just upsets me a little bit. She basically said, I'm not asking for your advice. I'm just telling you, Cody, that it upsets me a little bit and it's causing me a little bit of distress right now. And boom, I've just hit her again with another invalidation. I've just invalidated that emotion again. Now, let me ask you a question here, right? When was the last time that you were able to share a thought with your spouse to its complete and utter conclusion without interruption? When was the last time that was able to happen? Where you just had a thought and you just spoke it out all the way to the end with no interruption, and then your partner just goes, okay, so what I'm hearing is that you're having a tough time at work right now and you're upset, and that just I get that. That's just not a very nice experience. I get that you're upset right now and you're just not having a very nice experience. Yeah, do you want to cuddle? Right? Versus, are we listening to our partner waiting to jump in? Are we listening to our partner waiting for a crack, waiting for a break in the conversation just to join in? Because if you're doing that, right, if you are waiting, if you're listening to your partner, not listening to understand, but listening to go, okay, I'm just waiting. All right, she's taking some of the breath. Boom, I'm in. Don't worry about it. He's just an a-hole. I got it in, right? If you're listening for the next break in the conversation to jump in, yeah, active listening. That's right. Somebody just see that. I'm trying to look at the comments here and talk at the same time. So if I look over here at the comments, then it looks like I'm looking away from the camera. So if I am looking away, it's because I'm looking at the comments. No one says, I get cut off. Absolutely. Getting cut off is invalidation. How does that make you feel? How do you feel about that, right? It's like if you are getting cut off all the time, if you're being told that your emotions are not valid all the time, and you're never allowed to express yourself, then that is invalidation, right? And it's very, very frustrating. So again, let's look at how this is impacting our core tenets of the relationship. How is it acting emotional security? Well, if every time I communicate, I get, it says here, I get shut down, exactly right, or I shut down, exactly right. If every time I try to communicate with my wife, she invalidates my feelings, she invalidates what I'm going through, then I'm going to feel shut down, right? And that is an attack on my emotional security. Now, getting shut down is one of the more, it's not as bad as being attacked. You could be attacked, like just being shut down. Okay, well that's one thing, but it's like if I share myself, I could actually end up getting attacked, which is going to utterly destroy the emotional security, and it's going to stop me wanting to communicate. Now, if you're a man and you're doing this to your woman, you probably don't even know that you're doing it right. But here's the thing: if you're invalidating her feelings on a regular basis, and unless you've been through some kind of communication training, unless you have this information, unless you've been through a structured process of communicating, and I'm telling you, I don't want to jump off on a tangent here, but when I work with couples one-to-one, they're not allowed to talk. People say, how's this different? How's what you do different to talk therapy, Cody? My clients are not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to talk to each other because they just mess it up. They don't know how to have a conversation. Every time they talk, they fight. So it's like, hey, we're going to stop talking for a while, and this is going to be, we're going to give you a structure, and we're going to follow the structure, and we're just not going to communicate the way that we've communicated, because guess what, guys? The evidence suggests that you don't know how. So how's this different to talk therapy? Might sound funny, but my clients are not allowed to talk to each other, at least until they have that structure right. But getting back to what we're talking about here, if you're shutting, every time your woman is trying to talk to you, or every time your man is talking to you, you're shutting them down and you're invalidating their emotions, the emotional security is being destroyed, and eventually they're going to shut down. There's a comment here in the Facebook. It only says Facebook user, unfortunately, on my screen here with the software I'm using, but it says I get shut down, or I shut down. At some point, that's going to be permanent. At some point, that shutdown is going to be permanent, right? It's like my phone here in front of me that I'm recording on right now. If I let it sit in the sun too long, it'll shut down. It'll say overheated, shut down. And it can only do that so many times before the phone burns out. It can only overheat so many times before that phone burns out, right? So you can only get shut down so many times. And a woman who shuts down and is unable to communicate is in a desert. She's in a desert. It's like men don't get this, right? The easiest way for men and women to understand each other is for a woman. If you're a man trying to understand a woman, communication and talking for a woman is like sex for you, and vice versa. How often you need sex and the intensity that you need sex. Like a woman just showing up and saying, I'm just going to go through the motions once every 30 days or whatever, or once a week, but I'm just going to go through the motions. There's no passion, there's no enthusiasm. I'm not going to act interested. I'm not going to act like I'm enjoying this. I'm not going to act like I enjoy you. I'm not going to act like I'm passionate about this. I'm just going to show up and I'm going to go through the motions. Well, okay, the man gets his need met at a very basic level, right? And it's like maybe you guys stay together. Maybe it's not a divorce situation, but it's like, is that exceptional? What kind of culture are we going for in the relationship? Are you going for exceptional culture? Is that going above it? Is that what you want? Do you want to just get by? But the same is true the other way, right? When men are giving that kind of commitment to a woman, if that even, right? It's like they're showing up and it's like, well, I'll show up out of obligation, but I'm not going to act interested in what you got to do. I'm not going to act attracted to you. I'm not going to act interested in your emotions. I'm not really wanting to listen to you. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch the iPad while you're talking. It's like, it's the same, guys. Sex for a man and communication for a woman. A woman needs communication like a man needs sex, and a man needs sex like a woman needs communication. And I was working with a couple here recently, and they hadn't had sex for a number of years, let's say 5 years. And my question to the woman was, and it was her, she was doing this, right? She was doing this. She was the one not refusing to give the sex. And immediately my first response was, well, what about if your husband refused to talk to you for 5 years? What if he refused, or he talked to you once in 5 years? How would you feel about that? Would that be acceptable? Would you be willing to stick with him if in 5 years he said, I'm willing to talk to you once? He stayed with you for 5 years while getting sex once in that 5 years. You've got to recognize his commitment, because he's in a desert. He's been in a 5-year famine and he stayed with you. And she just didn't understand that sex to him was like communication to her. And if he said to her, I'm willing to talk to you once every 5 years, and it's just going to be functional, that's it. That's what's going on, right? So when that communication stops for a woman, she shuts down, emotional security is removed, and this is where you get statements like, my wife just doesn't like talking. A couple the other day I was working with, the man said, I was working with him individually, he said, my wife just doesn't like talking. I'm like, she doesn't like talking to you. Let's refine that a little bit. She's a woman, she loves to talk, she needs to talk. And the fact that she's telling you she doesn't like talking, I think you've got to ask the question, does she not like talking, or does she not like talking to me? And why is that? Because you've destroyed the safety, you've destroyed the security, you've destroyed the mutual admiration, so on and so forth. So this is where invalidation, right? We've got to keep moving here. I'm going a little bit deeper than I thought I was going to. Invalidation destroys emotional security much more than you imagine. And again, we want to look at not just am I invalidating what's going on? Am I just invalidating my partner? What is the damage that it's doing? And when we look at difficult spouses, estranged spouses, partners that are shut down, they've moved out, they're separated, have you been doing this, right? Because a lot of times we look at our partner, and I don't want to go into this session right now, but we look at our partner and we go, this problem, and you don't realize that you've been invalidating for a long time, and it's like the invalidation has caused the shutdown. You don't realize that the escalation has destroyed the emotional security. You don't realize that these habits have done the damage where they've done it. And hopefully I want to give you the tools here to where you can look at what's going on with your estranged partner tomorrow, and you can see where the damage is, and we can actually start to do the work and rebuild in the areas that are torn down, and not the areas that you think the problems. Like if you just say, well, we fight all the time, that's not the problem. The problem is that emotional security has been destroyed, or whatever, right? The problem is not the fighting. But we're going to get on that tomorrow. I'm getting sidetracked again. So the next one is withdrawal. Now, a lot of these come together, right? The third toxic habit, the third horseman of the apocalypse, is withdrawing. So some people escalate through withdrawal. So for example, and this is just for demonstration purposes, and me and my wife don't fight about the garage, but if my wife says, could you please move your car over so I can get my car into the garage? And, maybe I don't blow up and go, I've been driving for about 25 years and I'm a better driver than you. Nothing you can tell me about parking a car. Maybe I just go, right, I've had enough of this. I'm out of here. And I just go I'll move the car, sweet. I get in the car and drive off. And I'm gone for 2 hours. Or I just go down, I don't drink, obviously, anymore. But I go down the pub or the bar and see my friends or whatever it is, right? I just withdraw from the relationship, which another word for withdrawal, right, is abandonment. It's abandonment. We don't realize this. We get into a fight and we withdraw, we pull it back from the relationship and we stonewall, or we refuse to get involved. We refuse to have conversations. Like, withdrawal can come in a lot of forms, right? It doesn't necessarily mean leaving the house, leaving the building. It can be emotionally withdrawing from the person. And guess what? Another word for that is abandonment. It's abandonment. You're abandoning your partner. It might be a physical abandonment, or it might be emotional abandonment, or it might be both. But nevertheless, you're abandoning your partner at that point. Now, when your partner asks you something or wants to address something with you or talks with you, you emotionally abandon them or you physically abandon them, and you're their emotional security, you're their emotional safety, you're their protection. They're leaning on you. They need you, right? There's nothing wrong with needing your partner. I need my wife. I need her. And it's not because I need her to look after the kids and I need her to school the kids and I need her to cook dinner. I need her because I'm a man and I'm full of masculine energy, and she's a woman and she's full of feminine energy, and she brings that contrast. Without light, there is no dark. Without day, there is no night. Without hot, there is no cold. Without yin, there is no yang. Without left, there is no right. We need that contrast. And to start with, that contrast caused conflict, but now I recognize that she is what I am not. She's very calm. I was hot-headed. She is patient. I'm impatient. She tends to de-escalate. I tend to escalate. It's like all of the things that I am not, she is. And what caused the conflict initially is now beautiful, right? We need each other. There's nothing wrong with needing each other. But when we withdraw, when we abandon our partner, we destroy that security. We destroy that safety, right? And there are times when I'll walk out of the house, but I have an agreement with my wife. I don't just walk out and leave and not tell. I say, if I walk out, this is my de-escalation strategy, right? If I get to the point to where I'm about to lose control of myself, I just say, I've got to leave. I love you. I'll be back when I can talk. And we've talked about this ahead of time. When I do that, I'm not abandoning her. I'm not leaving her. I'm telling her that I'm leaving right now because I love you and I will be back. I will return. I'm doing this out of love. I'm not leaving out of anger. I'm leaving out of love. I'm not leaving out of annoyance or whatever, and I'm not abandoning you. I'm leaving because I love you, and I will be back. There's no abandonment. There's no, even in that situation where you could technically say it's withdrawal, right? I'm not really withdrawing. I'm telling her what's going on, and we have that pre-arranged. So that's withdrawal. And again, look at how these habits are killing your security, mutual admiration, so on and so forth. I'm going to keep going because we've got a few more to go through here. So the next one is the worst. This is the cause of, it's going to be the cause of 99% of the problems in your relationship, and it is negative interpretation. Negative interpretation. It's choosing. It's thinking bad when you could think good. It's negatively interpreting every situation. Like my wife, for example, she might park the car to where I can't get in, and I go, she's done that deliberately to wind me up. She's done that deliberately to upset me. Where the reality is, she's got 3 screaming kids in the back. She's got a car full of shopping. She needs to get round the side of the house into the house, and she's like, how am I going? She's got a baby, screaming baby. She's like, how am I going to get the shopping in the house? How am I going to get this baby in the house? How am I going to stop these kids from screaming? And she hasn't given the first thought to. I haven't even entered into her mind, right? There's zero. I'm figure zero in the equation, and I just look at she's parked the car sloppily, and I go, she's done that to annoy me. She's done that to upset me. Or maybe we moved out of Sydney recently. I'm about 7 hours from Sydney now, and her family's still in Sydney. And she might go, I really want to go see my family next week. Is there any chance we can take some time and go see my family? And I'm thinking, well, I've got this marriage retreat I'm doing next week. It's not a great time for me to go to see the family in Sydney. It's not a great time for me. It's got nothing to do with her. It's just the fact that I'm doing a marriage retreat this week with you guys. So, but she could easily go, you just don't like my mum and dad. You just don't want to be around my mother. You just don't like them. That's what it is. You just don't want to be around them, and you're going to stop me from seeing my family because you don't like your mother-in-law. You don't like her. That's a negative interpretation of the situation, right? When actually the reality is, it's got nothing to do with it. It's got absolutely nothing to do with it. And a lot of times, most of the time, I would even say, we don't know the truth. We don't know it. I don't know what you're thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking. Only God knows the hearts of men. Only God knows what truly is being thought. And how many times have the best of intentions ended up in the worst of results? So every time we have a negative interpretation of a situation, which is often, right, this is why I keep this is a great thing right here. If you can do this, I call it stop, snap, and switch. So every time I catch myself having that negative interpretation of something, I stop, snap, and switch to try and build that habit, because I want to interpret things positively. And in light of the fact, well, I don't really know where my wife's coming from. I have no idea what her intentions are. It's equally as possible, as far as I'm concerned, that her intentions are good as they are bad. Why not choose good? Why not choose good? Because what does making a negative interpretation do for the relationship? Again, looking at the core tenets of our relationship here, the emotional safety, it destroys it. It absolutely destroys it, and it serves no purpose. So let me share something with you here very quickly. This is called the feedback loop. Look how clever I am with my chart here. So here's what happens. Thoughts. Everything in your life is preceded by a thought. Nothing happens randomly and then you think about it. Nothing happens randomly and then you think about it. You think about something and then you act. Everything starts with a thought. Every action originates with a thought. Now, it might be a split second of a thought. It might be so quick that it's imperceivable, but nevertheless, my hand is not able to move without my first having a thought, and then that thought being converted into electrical signal, and then that signal sent to my hand. Has to have a thought first, right? So thoughts start, and then those thoughts turn into a feeling. So what we're talking about here is negative interpretation. Negative interpretation. So if my wife parks the car and it's a little bit sloppy, and I look at it and I go, she's done that just to piss me off. She's done that just to wind me up. What kind of feeling is that going to produce in me? Put in the chat, is it a good feeling or is it a bad feeling? So I want to wake you guys up because we're getting close to the end here and need to pick the energy levels up. We're on the home straight here. So good or bad, right? Good or bad. It's going to produce a bad feeling. If I think she's just parked that car like that just to piss me off, I'm going to go, oh, it's going to produce a negative feeling in me. Bad, exactly right. It's not going to endear me or her towards me right now. Now I've got that bad feeling. I'm thinking, oh, she's done this. She's tried to piss me off again. She's done it. That is going to turn into an action. That feeling is now going to turn into an action. Now, what do you think that action is going to be? Do you think I'm going to speak to my wife lovingly, caringly? Do you think I'm going to give her emotional security and safety, or am I going to now escalate the situation? Am I going to now escalate? I'm going to escalate. I'm going to turn this into a fight, which is going to destroy everything, right? So this is our actions. The next thing comes, we get our results here. So the action is going to produce a result. I've escalated the situation into a fight. Now there's a fight. That's the result. And what is the result of that fight? I'm going to be confirmation bias, right? I'm going to go, I thought that she was doing this to irritate me, and now I've just confirmed it, right? She's had a fight with me. I thought she's just mean. She's just mean. That's what she is. And as a result of that thought, I've created a negative feeling. It's created a negative action. It's created a fight. That result has created, or that fight has created a result, which is there's no mutual admiration. There's the shared vision is being destroyed. The safety is being destroyed. And that is creating a feedback loop, which is now reassuring me that I was right. It's reassuring me that I was right. I've become a self-fulfilled prophecy. My confirmation bias has been fulfilled. And how is that? Why has that happened? Because I chose a negative interpretation of the situation. Now, the way out of this, there's several ways out of this. And again, we cover all of this in so much more detail in the marriage recovery program. But I just want to give you some stuff that you can take away right now. You ask the question, what else could this mean? What else could this mean? If I look at the car and it's been parked badly, and I can get mad and go through the negative interpretation that we've just been through, right? Or I can ask myself, what else could this mean? Well, it could mean that she's been having a really tough day with the kids, and she just went to the grocery store and she had a hell of a time in the grocery store, and the kids were screaming, and then she got home and the kids were just not cooperating, and she just wanted to get the groceries in the house because she knew that I'd be home soon, and she wanted to have dinner on the table for me to have a family meal when we got home. And that was her main concern. She didn't even think about parking the car. The reason she parked the car like that was because she wanted to really have a nice meal on the table so we could have a nice evening. Well, I just screwed that up, didn't I? I just messed that up by asking the question, what else can it mean? What else could this mean? It can give me a different perspective, right? We talked yesterday about the man on the subway where his wife had died and his children's mother just died. Go back and see that if you didn't see that. You have a paradigm shift, and that will change the way you see things, and that will then allow you to have a positive interpretation. Because hey, I'm gonna ask this one question, and then we're gonna move on very, very quickly. Have you ever woken up and gone, I'm gonna really piss my partner off today? I'm going to really upset my partner. When I work with couples closely, 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, two of them, one to me, or 1-to-1, or however it works, however you would say that. The question I ask them is, have either of you ever woken up in the morning and gone, I'm going to really piss my partner off today. I'm really going to be mean today. I'm really going to go out of my way to upset my partner and make a mess of this marriage. Have you ever done that? And the answer, of course, is always no. I'm like, so neither of you have ever set out to upset each other intentionally? No. So can we just agree then that any friction here, any roughness, any conflict is a miscommunication, and we can choose, understanding that it's a miscommunication, can we choose a negative or a positive interpretation of that situation? Can we choose that? Can we choose that? No, people are saying no in the chat here. No, we've never done that, right? Yet, nevertheless, have we upset our partner? We've never woken up and gone, I'm going to really upset my partner. I'm really going to be a nasty piece of work and upset my partner. We've never done that. Yet, have we upset our partner? Have we made them mad? Have we caused conflicts? Of course we have. Of course we have. Did we mean to do that? Of course we didn't. So what would be the right interpretation for our partner? It would be a positive interpretation. It would be saying, hey, it's miscommunication. So when I'm working with couples, this is the question, right? Have you ever done that? No. Okay, well, can we just say that our communication strategy is broken then? Can we agree that we don't know how to communicate with each other? We don't have a structure. We don't know how to interact. And this can go deep as well, right? My wife is Middle Eastern. I'm from the UK. Couldn't be culturally more different, right? The stereotypically, and stereotypes exist for a reason. The English are very quiet, very reserved. The Arabs are very loud, very boisterous, right? And the way that Arabs communicate, the way my wife's family communicate is they shout at each other. A number of times where I've been around my mother and father-in-law, and I thought they were getting ready to kill each other, and I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, oh, she's just asking him what he wants for dinner. I'm like, why are they so upset? What happened? And they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong. That's how they communicate, right? You and I, like, I would think that they're having a war. I would think that they're getting ready to get a divorce. That's how they communicate. They shout at each other. That's how they demonstrate love in their house. They shout. That's how they demonstrate love. Whereas we shouted at each other when we were angry. We were shouting at each other when we didn't get along. That's when we shouted. So this is very complex, right? When my wife is shouting, I'm interpreting that as she's angry at me. So I'm going to get defensive, and I'm going to go negative interpretation. I'm going to go defensive, and I'm probably going to escalate, and I might even withdraw. When actually she's demonstrating love. She's trying to show me that she loves me. She's just doing it in a way that I don't understand, because they show love through volume and shouting. I experience love through reservedness and quietness. That's how I experience love. That's how I got love growing up. It was very quietly. It wasn't loud. So just those two things there come together, and that can destroy a relationship. Two people that love each other. But what I have to say is she would never wake up and intentionally hurt me. So even though she's shouting right now, I'm going to interpret that positively and say, even if I don't understand what's going on, I know she wouldn't hurt me, and I'm not going to shut down. I'm not going to stonewall her. I'm not going to destroy her emotional safety. So what have we got left here? We got 2 minutes. I want to keep this on time. So let's turn this all around. So hopefully you found that helpful, right? I've given you what doesn't work, right? I've given you what doesn't work. But as I always say, I'm not the kind of guy that just gives you a problem and doesn't give you a solution. So the solution is very easy. The solution is turn these around. If these are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, what is going to turn that around, and what is going to make this into a dream situation? What is going to restore and rebuild? Well, let's look at these one at a time. Escalation. Escalation is destructive. What's the reverse of that? De-escalation. You want to focus and set your goal to become a person who can take something and turn it into nothing. Right now, we're probably all people. Most of us are people that can take something and turn it into nothing. We can take an acorn and turn it into an oak tree, right? We want to flip that around. We want to de-escalate. We want to develop the habit of de-escalation. I de-escalate situations. I can take an oak tree and turn it back into an acorn. I can take a mountain and I can turn it into a molehill. I can take something and I can turn it back into nothing. If you can develop that habit, if you can eradicate the habit of escalation and you can develop the habit of de-escalation to where that becomes your DNA, that becomes who you are, you're not even having to try. It's effortless. It's who you are. You effortlessly de-escalate situations because that's your DNA. That's who you are. Who thinks they'd have a better marriage? Who thinks they'd have a better life in general, right? Who thinks they'd have a better life in general? Moving on quickly. Invalidation, right? Instead of being somebody who invalidates, albeit a lot of times we don't realize we're doing it, it's insidious. What about if we become somebody who actually seeks out validation? My goal is to actually validate you. My goal is to validate your emotions. My goal is to validate your feelings. My goal is to make you feel heard. My goal is to make you feel understood. Because it's just as easy to succeed as it is to fail. This is just a habit. Once it's ingrained, once it's installed, it's a habit. It's on autopilot. It takes no effort. But you need that coaching to get you through the first period of your life where you got to brush your teeth, you got to get in the shower. That's what a coach does, gets you through that. Not difficult, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So now we've got the habit of, we've ingrained, we've done the work, we've stuck with it, we've committed to being a person who validates, and now we effortlessly validate our partner on autopilot and we validate the people around us on autopilot. Now, a lot of people, I've got a lot of comments, requests, emails, phone calls about partners that just simply are not they're just not participatory right now. They're just not involved in the relationship. Again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. If you change yourself, do you think they would start to change towards you? And I'm not talking about do this for a week, do this for a month. I'm talking about genuine change. The habits change, the DNA's changed, you have changed. When they can see that you no longer escalate, you de-escalate. When they can see that you no longer invalidate, you validate. When they can see that you no longer withdraw, you now have the emotional maturity and intelligence and skills and habits to remain present in the relationship. And they can see through experience over an extended period of time that you are now a positive person. You positively interpret their behavior. Because here, you want to destroy a relationship, I give it to you right now in one sentence, right? Question somebody's motivation. That's it. If you want to utterly and totally destroy a relationship beyond the ability to fix it, question somebody's motivation. You can say, Cody, you hurt me, and that's fine. We can move beyond that. You can say, Cody, you did me wrong, and we can move beyond that. But if you say, Cody, you intentionally hurt me and you set out to cause me harm, that's a different story, right? That is a different story. If I start assigning motivation to your behavior, we're going to have problems, right? We're going to have problems. So that is how you destroy a relationship, is you question somebody's integrity, you question somebody's motivation. So we're at the time here, so that's it. So turn these around. Negative interpretation, become somebody who always looks for the good, looks for the positive, looks for what's right. Don't look for what's wrong, look for what's right. Confirmation bias, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, seeks out what we believe to be true. Let's make that confirmation bias work for us. Let's make that self-fulfilling prophecy work for us. Let's become a person. Let's create the DNA. Let's make the change, and let's become that person who is convinced that your partner is good. And let's let that confirmation bias work. We're convinced that our partner loves us and they're working in our best interest, even if it's the best of intentions and the worst of results. Let that prophecy fulfill. Right? Let's put ourselves in that situation right now, because right now confirmation bias is working against you. Right now the self-fulfilling prophecy is working against you. We're going to cover all of that tomorrow because we are out of time. We got there. Awesome, guys. Thank you for your participation today. Really top-notch participation. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the likes. I know that I'm talking to people out there because of that, so God bless you. We got some homework here. Let me see here. So share my screen. Here it is. Is this what we got? Yeah, here we go. So just go through here and you can see what each of these are. Is this right? Oh, this is yesterday. How to stop the fighting now. So go ahead and make notes on this. Write down. Let me get here. What each of the habits are. It's escalation, invalidation, withdrawal, and negative interpretation. Go ahead and put down what are some ways that you're actually engaged in this right now? And again, not how your partner's engaged in it, how you're engaged in it, some things that you can do here to eliminate that habit from your relationship. And a good thing to do too would be to put some ways in there how you can turn this around and how you can make this a positive habit. So that's it from me. God bless you. Thank you so much for your participation today. Thank you so much for showing up. I love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow, where we're going to talk about difficult partners, partners that are checked out, partners that are estranged. If you're separated right now, if your partner won't cooperate, tomorrow is going to be for you, because we're going to talk about how to turn that around, how to make that work again, and go through these videos again, because we're going to build on these sessions. Tomorrow is going to build on today's session, just like today built on yesterday's session. So God bless you, and we'll see you very, very soon. How soon, in your opinion, do you see somebody turning it around if they follow the steps, if they follow the process?
I did it in 4 weeks. And we were in separate bedrooms. Her bags were packed. Cash was in the separate account, ready to go. And yeah, I just jumped in the deep end. I've got to save this. Didn't communicate with her, just my actions. And that was 4 weeks. So yeah, I suppose if we go back in time, all the way to the beginning, prior to me touching base with your team, Cody. My wife and I were having difficulties. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't right. And I don't, if I was to really think hard about it, I don't even know how I came across you and your team. I think I just Google searched, in all honesty, crappy marriage, shitty wife, fix it, how to. And your name started popping up. So I watched a couple of your YouTube clips, and it just resonated. It just sounded good, the way, the language, I could interpret it and I could understand it. So I reached out to one of your team, and my first phone interview pretty much had me in tears in the first 15 minutes. And I thought I had it under control. I thought I knew what the problem was. I just needed some reassurance to go, yeah, buddy, that's what you should do, and you'll be fine. But no, talking to a professional just brought all that undone. And it made it reassuring to say that we're not about fixing the relationship. We're identifying that myself as a person, as a man, has got some faults. And it wasn't a big guilt trip. It was almost a fact, yeah, you got some issues and we can help you fix it, and you're going to be better for it. And so I found that really reassuring and really encouraging, and gave me the motivation to, really look into it and throw myself into the deep end and really give it everything that I could. And so I've heard some of the other guys talk about their situations, and they're pretty dire. My situation was pretty dire as well. If I go back to my wife's birthday, I had grand plans to try and resurrect and sort of save the marriage. And my wife and I, we weren't talking. It was just real. We're just coexisting in the house. Hi, bye. There's your dinner. Do the dishes. Just really, when I look back now, and I'm just really childish. But on her birthday, I said to her, "Oh, look, we should. I've planned a day. We'll go out. I'll take you somewhere." We're allowed it. We can use language here, Cody, if you don't mind. Like, no,
go ahead.
Yeah, she turned around to me and just looked me dead in the eye and said, "Why the fuck would I want to go with you anywhere?" And that really sort of set me back. She said to me, "My bags are packed. I've got cash set. I'm about to walk out the friggin' door, and you want me to go with you somewhere?" And it just blew up. I think at that point in time, it's like, I need rescuing, I need saving, I need to do something. And so, yeah, got involved with Cody and the team, and didn't implement anything straight away. Did a lot of reading, and it really helped. I learned a lot about myself as a person and where my shortcomings were. I know there's guys that are involved in drinking and gambling and drugs and porn and affairs and all of that. But what I've learned, it just shies away from all of that. It pushes all that to the side, and then it gets right into the psychic of what humans are, what humans need, why humans do what they need to do. I found that really interesting, and I could see the patterns of what I was doing as a person, and what I thought I was doing was right, and
Let me jump in for just a second, Brad. Let's put that into sequence, so we've got some kind of context as to where you were in the relationship, and where these aha moments came in, and how those aha moments actually impacted you in the relationship. Because like a lot of this stuff, right? People are going to go, I know that, and it's like, well,
cool, yeah.
If you know it, why are you not doing it, right? Why is your marriage not there? So let's look at let's go back to the beginning, and if you don't mind, if that's all right, just to so talk just a tad more about like where you were when you first came to us in terms of your relationship. You're in different bedrooms, right? It was like
100%.
the bags were packed.
No, different bedrooms, not talking, really disliking each other's company. I've got 3 boys, 18, 16, and 14. They were all in the house, but we were right at the point of we've got to separate. We've got to just take the heat out of this relationship. My boys were picking up on it. We were having arguments, and they were just in the room next door. And when the argument was over, my boys were coming out. Oh, what's going on? Why is Mum saying she wants you to leave? You know, what's all this about? So yeah, when I look back now, really immature, really stupid, and I can't believe that we acted that way to each other. You know, there was we were all just running on emotions, but it was so irresponsible that I look back at it now. But at that point in time, it seemed like we were doing the right thing. I was defending myself, she was defending herself. But yeah, it's a really crappy time to go through, and I imagine there's quite a few of us that are going through it. But yeah, when I got on board with your team, I was able to find out that one of my biggest problems was not validating my wife's opinions, and just the way that I used to communicate with her. Like if I look back really early on, I tell this story to a couple of friends. So when I first met my wife and we're going out, we'd go out to the movies. I'd buy the ticket, I'd drive her there, go out for dinner, I'd pay for dinner, and then boyfriend, girlfriend do what they do. You know, we might get a bit of sex at the end of the night. That was cool. The following weekend, might go see another movie, go out for dinner, I'd pay, come the end of the night, get sex. Hey, this is a good cycle to be in. Spend a bit of money, hang out with my girlfriend, get what a bloke needs. And I just went round in this cycle, and I thought that cycle was good. Move along 20 years down the track, I've got 3 kids, and I'm still doing the exact same cycle. Because that fed my confidence. It gave me, fed my ego, made me feel good, gave me confidence, and I could just keep going around in that circle. I'm totally unaware that the impact that was having on my wife. Just totally oblivious to it. You talk about communication. I do not know how to communicate, with my wife. I do not know how to make her feel safe and secure. I do not have that skill set. And it wasn't until coming on board here that I learned a bit about that. When she was using her language and communicating with me, her words were just flying straight over the top of my head. But now that I look back, her words were absolutely on point. She was saying exactly what she needed to say. I just wasn't hearing it, and I just wasn't processing it. I didn't know what her words meant. And it's a bit of a shame that I've gone through 20 years and, have just been oblivious to what she's saying. But I've got still plenty of time ahead of me. I think if very early on in the stage, I think something that really struck with me was coming from a place from a servant's heart. And that just, I didn't know what that means, but I just hear the word servant and I hear the word slave. And so, okay, sounds like I've got to go home and be a slave. I can do that. I can just do all the chores and the jobs around the house. And I think that was one of the first steps I did. I just went home and just got really involved into what was going on in the household with no expectation of any gratitude or an expectation of, hey, thanks for doing that. I just hooked in and just basically got shit done. And when I say that, I'm talking about the things that, my wife would usually have to nag me to, take out the rubbish, feed the dog, take the dog for a walk. Can you help with this? Can you help with that? There was no communication. I just hooked in and got it done. And then the second thing that really resonated was, coming from a servant's heart and a place of gratefulness. And yeah, one situation where I think it was a turning point and a really aha moment was, my wife is Italian, hot-blooded Italian, right? And so loves to cook, really good cook. And leading up to our difficult time, not communicating, she wasn't cooking, it was just real sour in the house. And when she did cook, it was just crap, And so one night I remember vividly, she's cooked this meal and I'm sitting there eating it, and I'm no shit, it was like eating a fucking gumboot, but I push through and I'm eating this food. And I just said to her, I didn't look at her, there's no eye contact. I just said, I said to her out loud, I said, I'm really grateful for coming home to a home cooked meal every night. But I could see out of my peripheral, whatever she was doing, she sort of looked up and looked at me like, what the fuck are you saying, you idiot? And then she went back to it. But that was just a seed. I just threw that out there. I just dropped that out there with no expectation, no communication, wanting to come back from her. And then days go by, I find out that she was talking to her girlfriend, and she mentioned to her girlfriend that she said, oh, you know what Brad said the other night? He's fucking sitting outside eating this meal. And he turns around and he says, he's grateful for coming home to a home cooked meal. What's going on with this bloke? He's been doing these jobs around the house, something's going on. So and then this is something else that I've learned as well. So yeah, my wife, females, they love to talk. The difficult time that we were going through was that I was able to identify that my wife was talking, she just wasn't talking to me. And so
exactly right.
It took a long time for me to get her to start sharing words and start communicating with me. And one other situation that I was able to catch myself on handling was, she was telling me a story. She's gone through Macca's drive-through and got a coffee, and they totally botched a coffee, and she was really upset by it. Old Brad would have turned around and gone, well, why the fuck are you going through Macca's? You should just go through Starbucks. Their coffee's heaps better. And I would have just invalidated her comment, whatever experience she had. Here I am, I'm the problem solver. You had a problem, I've solved your problem. Move on with your life. And she started telling me that story, and I just had to catch myself and say nothing, and then listen to the next 15, 20 minutes of how bad the coffee was and how bad the service was. And she doesn't think she's going to go back there again. She's trying to find a new coffee shop. And at the end of it, she turns around and goes, I might end up starting giving Starbucks a go. I'm like, wow. So we were presented with the exact same problem, and we came to the exact same solution. I'm a logical thinker. I went straight from A to B. Obviously, my wife's not a logical thinker. She took me on this lovely, wonderful journey and told me, this wonderful, fluffy story, but we still got to the end, the same conclusion. And so, yeah, I've just learned to, what's the saying, Cody? Close your beak, just shut up.
Button the beak.
Yeah,
button the beak.
Yeah. But it's got to come. So all these little sayings and all these little cues, it's okay to talk about them and joke about them, but you do have to be genuine. I had to catch myself. I can't just sit there and go, okay, I learned something today. All a guy has to do is shut up and say nothing. That's not really it. You do have to be quiet. You do have to give your wife the time to talk and express her feelings, but then you also need to be genuine and take them on board. And then when it's your turn to communicate, you need to be sincere. And I didn't know how to do that. I wasn't doing that. And that was a big part of our problem. And I'm still trying to fix that and work on that every day.
Yeah, yeah. And you bring up a good point there. Like your wife loves to talk, and I talk to men all the time, and they go, my wife just doesn't like talking. My wife, she just doesn't want to talk. She doesn't like talking. And it's like, no, women, they love talking. She doesn't like to talk to you. And that is the fundamental flaw in the relationship, right? This is the real problem, that until she can talk about her problems with you, that the relationship is not going to resolve itself. And until that emotional safety can be created to where she feels safe to talk about her problems, then there's going to be real problems. So it's good to understand that every woman loves to talk. If she's not talking, it's because she doesn't want to talk to you. So jumping forward a little bit and sort of creating this gap here. So where are you at in your marriage now, Brad? And how long has it taken you to get there? I mean, you've been with us for what, a couple of months now, probably?
A couple of months. So my family, my wife and my boys, we celebrated Christmas, and hand on my heart, I think was the best Christmas we've had as a family. When things were really, really crappy, it was her birthday. So we're talking November the 11th. So from November the 11th, that was a turning point for me. I've got to do something. I've got to start researching. I've got to go get on the internet and search up what to do. Go to 25th of December, Christmas. So here we're talking a month. And I think very early on, Cody, I said that was going to be my drive. My goal was to give my family this Christmas. My wife was going to get a new husband. My boys were going to get a new dad.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I delivered. The relationship with my boys has really exploded. And guys feel good when they've got sons. They sit there, yeah, me and my son, we're best mates. But I can honestly say over the last 8 weeks now that all of my boys, my 3 boys, we have become really tight. It's just gone up a level. And if anything else, I'm just super proud that I've been able to achieve that. And that was one of the mindsets that I come on board with, was, yeah, it would be great to save my marriage, but I was able to identify very early on a lot of the problems with myself as a person. So at the end of the day, if my marriage failed, it sounds crude to talk about it, but it was sort of like, all right, if my marriage fails, well, that fails. At the end of the day, at least I'm going to be a better man, be a better dad. But I've been able to achieve all 3: better man, better dad, better husband. And yeah, like I eventually had to come out and tell my wife, that I was doing this. She basically called me out on it. I was very keen and eager to read all the PDFs, watch all the clips, and then just race home and go, right, listen, I've got us fixed. All we need to do is blah, blah, blah. I read this thing, we're talking a lot about emotional safety and security. So that just did not gel with me. Emotional safety and security. So I've got an alarm system at home and I've got CCTV at home. I'm thinking we're pretty safe and we're pretty secure. But that's just my thought process. That's how I thought, legitimately. And I was just so far from where I needed to be. And so I have changed the way that I communicate now with my wife. It's awesome. It's not natural for me, and she knows that. But she has now also contributing and helping in a way that I've never seen her do that before. So yeah, she called me out one day. I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead, Cody, but she called me out. She goes, you've changed, you're doing things. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I suppose you're seeing a professional, a doctor, a psychologist, someone. And I said, well, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not that, but we should go out for lunch and I'll tell you what's been going on. And so I did. And it was really good and refreshing, because she turned around and she goes, look, it's not all your fault. It takes 2 to tango. She's got her own faults, but she was absolutely super proud and chuffed and rapt that I'd taken this on board myself. And when kids are involved, that was a big moment for her. She just loved to see the interaction and the way that the boys and I were growing and interacting, and things that we were doing together, where she's like, oh no, that's just the sons and the dad moment. She now wants to be involved. She doesn't want to be just sitting on the sidelines. Let me come on board and ride motorbikes and do all boy things, So it's really brought us together really, really quickly. And people who are friends with me and family have seen it, and they can see that it's genuine. I imagine there's a few quick fix overnight things that you could probably do, and they might work for a couple of days and then fail. But yeah, these are we're starting from the ground up, building new foundations, and yeah, it's really good for myself and my family. We're loving it.
Yeah, no, that's good. You bring up a good point there. There's a lot of times there's a false reconciliation takes place, where when a woman, she leaves or she's on the brink of leaving, all of a sudden she's faced with the fear and the reality of being alone, and she comes back simply through the desire to not want to be alone, or the desire to not want to face life by herself, versus coming back to you because you're a high value male and you're indispensable, right? You become indispensable to her. So you bring up some other good points. Like a lot of guys talk about, or most guys, to be honest with you, when we first talk to them, are like, how do I change my wife? How do I introduce this to my wife? how do I get my wife to see this? And it's like, I always tell them, you don't need to. Like, curiosity is your friend. It's like the way this is going to be long term is she needs to see the changes, and you need to button the beak, as we say.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And I think back now to when you said all that, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, thinking, bullshit, no way that's going to happen. But yeah, you do. It just it came natural. It just felt like the right thing to do. I can't put it in any simpler terms. Shut the hell up and let your actions speak for themselves. And you do your actions from a place of gratefulness. I'm not going to do chores around the house and be expected to have people say, oh, thank you for doing the dishwasher. Oh, thank you for doing this. Or thank you for doing it. Expect nothing. And then it will come as a tidal wave. And I actually had to say to my wife, I said, I'm doing a few things, I'm changing a few things personally, and the tidal wave came, and I had to sort of say to her, I said, I need to either slow it down. It's just too much things are all happening. I'm spinning too many plates. I just said to her, this is what I'm trying to implement. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to cater for you. I'm trying to look after the boys. I'm trying to run a business. And she was more than understanding, and just said, take a break, pump the brakes, cool the jets, take a step back. You don't have to try and go at 100% all the time. And so that was just reassuring to hear that from her as well, that she could see that I'm making a super effort. But if you're going to burn yourself into the ground doing that, she's more than happy for it. Just take a break, relax, and that was just a sign of her showing that she had all the confidence in the relationship and it was going in the right direction. We're not back, 100%, but she can absolutely see that we're on the path of where we need to be and we're taking the right steps. If we need to slow some of those steps down, fine, that's good. And so that was just reassuring. And it all comes down to that communication, really listening to the words that my wife says to me, and being straight up. If she says something that makes 100% to her, but I don't understand it, it doesn't mean anything to me, instead of just sitting there nodding my head and go, oh, yeah, no worries, babe. I've actually got to call her out. Hang on a minute. The words that you're using, the body language that you're using, it doesn't make sense to me. Break it down, try again. And that's been awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So yeah, a lot of people that people will be watching this video or having problems in their marriage right now, they're going to be of the opinion that their problems are unique to them and that their situation is unique and their situation is worse than everybody else's. So we do what we do mostly in group, right? So you get to see like plenty of people coming through, and is this a process, Brad, that is unique to you and it works uniquely for your situation? Or in your experience now, having seen like many men come through, it's like, are pretty much the problems more or less all the same, and these type of results are available for anybody that wants to embrace the process?
Yeah, look, when I got told that that's how your course works, I'll be straight up with you. I'm like, I'm not doing one of these courses, no fucking way. I am not going to do a Zoom call with other men and sit there and babble on. I would much prefer just read the PDFs, watch the YouTube clips, listen to a podcast, and that'll be me. That was my hand on my heart. That was my plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, jumping on my first call and just listening to the other guys and how encouraging and reassuring, and how we're all walking the same path. It's like, I'll put the PDFs and the other bullshit aside. Let's get back onto the conference calls with all the blokes, and just spill your guts. And there's so much good information that comes out from that. I can't believe how powerful those classes are, really. That is the key. Get on those calls with those guys.
And a lot of it is you can't see the wood for the trees in most situations. Like people are just too emotionally involved with their own situation to see their situation clearly. But when you look at when you see somebody else that's in the same situation and you're completely emotionally detached, it's like, it's very easy to look at them and go, well, what the hell made you think that was going to work? What on earth made you think that was a good idea? It's so easy to see when you're around other people. Yeah,
and you get so invested in your own little world that and you're so motivated to make this work, and you're so focused and you're so driven, and it's not until you get onto these calls and talk to the other guys that they call you out and go, hang on, man, if you've been doing all that, that's good. We can see your intentions, but look at all the fuck ups that you've been doing along the way. And you've totally missed them. And you need those guys to call you out on that. And it's not intimidating, it's not aggressive. It's just blokes, like talking like this. It's just, hey man, yeah, I don't think you should have done that. You should have actually done this, because I reckon your wife would have interpreted it like that. And so it is just so simple, but and it often is, and it's easily fixed. But yeah, you can't cut corners. You can't be cheeky and try and jump, to step 10 if you haven't done step 1 to 5, because it'll bring it all undone. Absolutely.
So for people watching this, again, you've seen a lot of the people that come through a program and the problems that they have and stuff like that. Somebody who's watching this now that's thinking, there's no fixing my marriage, or my wife's told me that she wants out and or she's told me that she's moving or whatever. Like what's your advice for those guys?
Don't get too bogged down in what she says. That she's just reacting. And I really encourage you, like I've seen and heard some guys that have bad marriage. I think I've got a pretty bad one. I'm not going to go into details and tell the ins and outs, but I think my situation was pretty bad. And if I can turn it around in a month's time, I think anyone can. And it's like I've been bouncing a lot of these ideas and information off my friends, but if you strip it all the way down, I really do understand and appreciate the concept that whatever's going on in the marriage, good or bad, it really needs to be the man, the male figure in that marriage to change, and then the wife will follow. And that's not to be disrespectful to anyone's wife. Man's a leader, wife's a follower. No, that's not it. The man needs to change. The wives are looking for leaders, and together they go off. And that's what we've done. I've been able to change. My wife has seen the change. She wants to be right there by my side, and we are now going forward together in this direction. But yeah, you've got to do it from every little step and change that you make. You can't expect to be thanked or have any gratitude come back your way. So that's for blokes. That's probably a hard concept to take. Hey, we're so used to, hey, look what I did. Can I get some thanks? We do that at work. Hey, I did something great at work. You get acknowledgement for it. You get a nice email. You get something. To save your marriage, you're going to have to do something great and get nothing for it. And it doesn't have to be big, or grand. Yeah, it doesn't have to be big or grand. It's the little things. And yeah, I think very early on we talk about, you'll get tested. Our wives will try us and catch us out, and that happened to me as well. With nothing bad. It's not until you go through it and experience it that you can look back and go, oh, that's what that situation was. Now I understand. Yeah. But yeah, I remember one time sitting there, my wife is talking away, telling me the events of her day. And throughout the whole conversation, I'm wanting to jump in and solve problems or give her my feedback or tell her that shouldn't happen. But, button the beat, sit back, just listen, take it all on board. And yak. And then, she stopped and paused and looked at me and said, are you listening? I'm like, 100%, babe. Yeah, I'm listening. Keep going. Surely, how did this situation end up? Oh, okay, just making sure. Anyway, so then this happened, and then she goes off again. So, and that's, I know it sounds like that is a small thing, but imagine if you turn around to me and said, are you listening to me? And I'm like, oh, what? I don't know. What are you saying? A lot of the good work would have just been washed away. So yeah, you've got to be genuine. You've got to be all in, all cards in.
I remember you made some good comments. A few weeks ago on my wife's following my cues. My wife's following my cues. One of the things we talk about, right? It's like, you become the man that you need to be, and your wife everyone will step up. The rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
And yeah. I remember just out of the blue, you made some comment on a call about, my wife's following my cues. She's following my. I don't remember your exact words. Do you remember, Brad?
I can't remember 100%, but now that you just say those words, Cody, like I look back now, and I remember situation, just being in the kitchen. I'm cleaning up after we've cooked dinner. I'd been at work and she came in and she's like, oh, you don't have to do all that. I can get involved. I'm like, no. You go do your thing. Me and the boys have got this. And so she's seeing that I'm changing some things. She doesn't want to be the one who's left out. She wants to come in and do things. And we're only talking about chores. Like, I can talk about, things that we've done on the weekend. I don't want to there's so much that happens inside the house around, cooking, cleaning, getting the boys, up and running. But typically, my wife was, no, you've been at work all day. You kick back, put your feet up and relax. I'm coming now from a servant's heart and a place of gratefulness. No, I'm not doing that. I'm getting involved. And even when she wants to come in and say to me, go and leave it, and she'll do it, I'm like, no, I got this. You go and relax. You take your weight off your feet and have a light evening. I got this under control, But yeah, I can just look back now. It probably doesn't sound like it, but I can look back now that I was making changes. She also naturally just wanted to make a few changes as well. And yeah, my three boys are standing back looking at us both, arguing over who's going to do the most chores, and they're loving it as well.
No, it's good.
Yeah, so, and look, weekends. So I think it was there a couple of weeks before Christmas. I took her out to just do a little country town. I know we can say this, my wife is into witchcraft and that type of thing. That's an interest in her. She knows I've got no idea what that sort of stuff is, but I found a quirky little shop and took her over there. And so from a guy's point of view, very, very small gesture, I found this shop, let's go over here. But, she fell in love with it and just really appreciated the fact that I'd taken time out of my day to do a bit of research on something that she's interested in, and took her over there. And, we had a lovely lunch, and, she said, you've never ever done that before. And it wasn't until, doing this, and I'm like, oh, I should do something that my wife is, wanting to get involved with. And, that was just another giant step for me. It was a tiny little thing, but in her eyes, that was ginormous. And so, yeah, it's all about seeing those little cues and taking advantage of them and making sure that you can make them a positive, situation.
So if we were to set some realistic expectations for somebody that's watching this video right now, that's in a pretty bad situation, right? Maybe they're in a separate bedroom, or they're getting kicked out of the house. The wife's telling them that I'm pretty much done with you. I've had enough of this. What's some realistic expectations from your experience now of how soon, in your opinion, do you see somebody turning it around if they follow the steps, if they follow the process, if they humble themselves and dethrone themselves from righteousness?
Yeah, I did it in 4 weeks. And we were in separate bedrooms. Her bags were packed. Cash was in the separate account, ready to go. And yeah, I just jumped in the deep end. I've got to save this. Didn't communicate with her, just my actions. And that was 4 weeks, and that falls wholly and solely on my shoulders. I think the first week was, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm reading, I'm implementing, I'm doing some stuff. I think week two was, well, we're talking, we're having conversations. It's, she's not biting my head off. It's the heat had been taken out of the relationship. Week 3 was, hey, do you want to do something together on the weekend? And I think week 4 was, all right, what's going on? Spill your guts. You're up to something. Come clean. And then that was the tidal wave. So 4 weeks. It was we've done a whole 180 degrees. And it was super emotional back then, if I remember. We were just we could both identify that shit. We were both just about to throw away. I've been with my wife 27 years, and we were both at the point, fuck it, throw it all away, go get stuffed. Both of us were like that. And after 4 weeks, turn it around, we look back and go, can't believe that we were just willing to throw it all away. Over what? Over me not being the best version of myself? Probably. So we now communicate, I don't know if a different level or just differently. I'm nearly 50, so we communicate like we're 50. 6 months ago, I'm communicating like I was still 21 because that's what I knew.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to think about, 20 plus, 30 plus years ago, there wasn't a book. Hey, there was no internet. It wasn't like you could search it up. You want to be a good husband, this is what you should do. That wasn't around. It's all trial and error. Try something, that worked. Shit, if it works, I'm going to keep doing it. But yeah, it took a wake-up call and for us to get into some pretty dark spaces for me to look at it and go, right, I've got to change something.
So let me throw something out there. Would you take 100 grand to go back into your old situation?
Fuck no.
To go back, what about $500,000?
No.
Million?
No. No.
What would it take to get you to go back to November 11th with no information?
Not going there. Nothing. Where I'm at, where I'm now, it's just the best. It really is, and everyone around us is aware of it, and everyone's wanting to know what's your magic formula, what's your trick, what are you doing, what's the magic essence. And yeah, it's a little bit of hard work, but it's so simple to do. And yeah, no, I'm not going back. I think that was one of the lessons very early on. I tell the story. I ride my bike, to and from work, and one of the lessons is, it's all about, you've got to convince yourself, you've got to tell yourself you're a good man, you're a loving man, your family loves you. I love my family, I love my wife loves me. And these are words that you got to write down, and these are things that you got to pray on and meditate on and think about. But that didn't work for me. And I think one of the guys in the courses actually stated that, he says it out loud. And so I ride my bike to and from work. I'm going down the back streets and I'm saying these things out. I'm nearly screaming them out actually at the top of my voice. 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm a great guy. I love my family. My boys love me. And saying it out loud, for me, that works well. It resonates. I can make it happen. If I say something out loud, I'm going to commit to it and do it. And so, yeah, it sounds silly, but it's those little things that you got to do that make the big things happen really, really easily.
Yeah. Well, one of the key principles of the program, Brad, as you're well aware, is the philosophy that when your attitude is right, the facts don't matter.
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot of people watching this right now going, yeah, but you don't know my facts. You don't know my situation. Yep. You don't know what's going on. And yeah, can you speak to that a little bit from your own experience and what you've seen as well?
Yeah, we don't need to. You don't need to know the facts. Yeah. And I had the same thought process, thinking that I'm going to have to come onto these calls and tell the guys the black and white situation. I've done this, I've done that, this happened and that. Don't care. Push all that to the side, right? Because going over the past and dredging all that back up is not going to help you moving forward into the future. So, yeah, we're able just to identify that if you've done this, you've done that, you've done that. Yeah, that's all cool. We understand that. But what you're doing is you're invalidating your wife's opinion. You're not making her feel safe and secure emotionally. You're not connecting on an emotional basis because you've done all these, terrible things. So let's push them aside and focus on how do you reconnect and start talking to your wife and making her feel emotionally secure. I had no idea how to do that. And so, yeah, that's what the lessons are for. Try this, try that. I did. I got nothing. Good. Don't expect anything. You're not going to get anything. Now try this. Now try that. And I still got nothing. And you feel like it's not working. But like I said, my wife wasn't talking to me, but she was talking to others and she was noticing it. And you'll get no encouragement from your wife and expect none, and just keep pushing forward. And then, yeah, the tidal wave, they talk about this tidal wave, it'll come. And for me, it did. And yeah, I had to say, back it down, slow it down. So no, it works 100%.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's some very valid points there. So look, here's what's going to happen. Just to anybody who's watching this, you're going to be tested. So when you start to change, as I'm sure you can validate, Brad, it's like your wife's going to want to know, is this change real? And she's going to want to know what happens when all hope is taken away from you. People go, my wife's telling me that she's leaving and she's not coming back. Well, yeah, she wants to know what's going to happen when hope's taken away. My wife's behaving like this. My wife's showing. It's like, because here's the thing, right? We can all behave well when things are going good. we can all behave well when we've got a belly full of food and a good night's sleep. It's when the chips are down and we're squeezed, when you actually figure out what's inside. And she's going to want to know what's inside of you for sure.
Yep.
And the only way she's going to figure out what's inside of you is to take your hope away, to test you, to put you under the thumb, to wind you up, to press your buttons. And when she can see that you're responding differently when placed under pressure, this is when the tidal wave, as you say, actually happens. So there's one more thing I want to talk about, just because it's beautiful, and it's my favorite part of the story, really, before we wrap this up. And it's the story of your boys, really. I mean, like over a period of time, you were talking about coming in and spending time, the relationship with your boys growing. So talk to us just a little bit about that, because that's just a nice side story of what happened.
Yeah. All right, I love talking about it, but I'll see if I can keep my shit together. So very, very early on in the piece, I can't remember, it might have been Rob who called me out. He was quizzing me on the relationship I have with my boys, and I said to him, it's really good. I've put a few things in play. We're water skiers, so I had arranged to get my boys their boat license leading up to Christmas. And he called me out, and I think his exact words were, he said to me, he goes, "It sounds like you're dragging your boys into your world, into my world." And he said, "How come you're not hanging out in their world?" And I think I said to him, I said, "That's because all they ever want to do is just play their fucking online gaming, Fortnite and all this other, all this other rubbish." And he goes, "So when was the last time you played Fortnite with them?" And I said to him, "I don't." And he just called me out. He goes, "Well, you're a shit dad, because you're not wanting to be in their world, but you want to move heaven and earth and drag them into yours." And that was just a real wake up call. So I went home that night and just went into my youngest son's room, and I said, "What are you doing? What are you playing? Scoot along, make room on your bed, let dad lay down." And he's like, "Yeah, cool. You want to have a turn?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll watch for a little while." And so we hung out, I think, for 3 hours and just talk. And he's showing me all about his games. And then my middle son came in. And he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just hanging out with Alex." And he goes, "Oh, cool." And he went and got his controller, and he hooked up. So then all three of us are sitting in the rooms, and we're playing and all that. And I did that night after night after night. And then kids are very easy. My boys then turned around and the conversation changes to, "Dad, are you coming in my room tonight?" So the first couple of nights was I had to go in and say, "Hey, do you mind if I come in?" And that just automatically changed to, "Dad, quick, I'm starting my new game. You coming in?" And then it was sharing. "Here, Dad, I'll teach you how to do this. I'll teach you how to do that." And so, yeah, jumping into their world was really good. And I remember doing it one night, and my wife was out in the kitchen, and she's just yelling out, "Boys, where's your dad? Where's your dad?" And she's calling out to me, and I said, "Shh, just be quiet. We'll just play our game." She came in and she goes, "What are you doing in here?" I'm like, "I'm just hanging out with Alex, playing a bit of Minecraft and, doing a bit." And she just automatically like teared up and got real emotional. And while my son had his headphones on, she just said, "My son's a special needs." But yeah, she just highlighted and pointed. She goes, "You know what? I'm rapt that you're just hanging out with the boys." This is before the tidal wave, so this is just one of those little things. I'm just playing games with my sons. My wife sees me interacting. She sees the happiness and joy that my boys are getting from it, and that melts her heart. And yeah, that was just another tiny little step in the right direction. And these, I don't know, people watching, they might go, "Oh, big deal, you're playing computer games with your son." Yeah, but in my household, that was a really big deal. In other people's households, it might not be that, but it'll be something. And it'll seem so insignificant, so small, but in actual fact, they are giant leaps forward. And it's not until you look back, and I can look back on them now, and I know that was an important time. And we still do that now. I love it. He loves it. We're expected to do it. I think weekend just gone, we took his Xbox out of his room. We put it into the theater room where the big screen is and the big sound is, and he got a real kick out of that too. Yeah. So it's just from little things, big things happen. But yeah, it's the relationship with my boys has been really good. Christmas, I wrote them a real personal, in-depth, long Christmas card. I got them some dog tags to wear around their necks. I got them engraved. It says, I got them engraved with my son, and on the back side says my brother. And with my two youngest boys, it didn't really gel. They're like, oh, cool, lovely piece of jewelry. Cool, thanks, Dad, awesome. And a lovely card. All right, yep, no worries. My eldest son, though, it took him, he's 19. It took him a little while to register. Him and I really hit it off. He came and approached me, says, I need to have a talk to you, Dad. He was very emotional, very upset. I said, has this got to do with your Christmas card? He goes, yeah. And what I had written down, if I remember, was, things like, I'm super proud of him as a boy. I'm super proud of him, of the man he's becoming. I've had my own misfortunes as being a father, having to hit home runs all the time, even though I'm trying. So I make mistakes, but I can identify them now, and I'm putting things in place to rectify them. You're going to make mistakes in your own life. Hopefully if anything, you'll be able to identify them, be able to, fix them up as you travel along. And your mum and I are here to support you, where we can. And yeah, he just found that really, really emotional. And, I hug my boys, but I haven't kissed my boys, for a long, long time. But yeah, both of us just, almost on a daily basis now, we kiss each other. We tell each other that we love each other, I think we need to do that, for this generation. Absolutely.
I think it's fair to say that in your household, you've gone from pretty much being dispensable, getting ready to be given, flicked out of the house, to being a valuable asset in the house in a relatively short period of time across the board, right? With your wife, with your kids, with the family unit as a whole.
Absolutely. Like I look back now at how dysfunctional, I don't know if that's the right word, but it was like there was 5 individual people living under the one roof. And how we got by, I don't know. But now there's 5 under the one roof, but we are just tight.
Family unit.
Yeah, real family unit. And it's beautiful. I feel like a king in my own kingdom. I've got my family under my own umbrella. You can do all the cliches that you want, but I sort of sit there and I'm super proud of my family, and I look at other families and go, you know what? I love my family. I guarantee you wish that you had what I've got. I don't know if that's an arrogant or confidence thing. It probably is, but I'll tell the world I'm just super proud of what my family is. Yeah.
Yeah. If your brightness offends people, they can just put some sunglasses on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I say.
You see, 100%.
If my brightness offends you, put some sunglasses on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's why I don't want to go back. No way. No amount of money in the world is going to get me back there.
No. Awesome, Brad. Listen, to wrap it up here, any closing thoughts? If anybody's thinking about this and they're skeptical, what are your closing thoughts on this, Brad?
Just do it. I had those thoughts. I was skeptical. I've never been an emotional person or been able to express my feelings, and so I would really feel awkward just doing a one-on-one, with a psychologist or a therapist or someone like that. But being in a group environment where other guys can share their stories, and you've got the opportunity just to weigh in and go, oh, that sounds real similar to what I'm going through, dude. How did you fix this? How did you handle that? Yeah, it just gives you all the confidence and reassurance to know that what you're doing will work, does work. It's worked for me. And I'm not here, spooking about anything. I'm just saying that, yeah, I had a real crap situation and I jumped in the deep end and I took on everything and made it work. And anyone can do it. Yeah.
And the one thing I will say about you, Brad, and for anyone listening, is like Brad did show up like a lot. Every call, Brad was there. Every opportunity. You went all in on it, Brad. Like you didn't. We get some guys that half-assed it, but you definitely went all in on it, which I think definitely accounts for a good percentage. Like there were many sessions where you're like, what the hell is this this emotional safety thing? What the hell? I don't get it. But it's like, but that's the thing, right? Show up, ask the questions, and keep asking the question until you get it.
Yeah, 100%.
Never give up.
Yep, 100%. There's no ridicule. You're not going to get shot down. It's all encouragement. Everyone is there to try and help everyone get over the line, and we're only going to be better people for it. So why not do it?
Awesome. Any closing thought? Anything you want to say before we wrap our time up together here?
Yeah, you can show this to whoever you want.
Thank you.
Heart goes out. Heart goes out. Really, sincerely, heart goes out to those who are having a crap time.
Yeah.
Encouragement goes out to those who are on the fence, thinking, "Should I do it? Should I do it?" Encouragement, do it. And yeah, peace and love to everyone.
Nothing's going to get better till you do. That is the key. You have to get better for your situation to get better.
Spot on.
All right, Brad, listen, immensely appreciative of your time today. Thank you so much. And
My pleasure.
yeah, have a good one, bro.
No worries, Cody. See you, buddy.
Or stop.